I'm Mike Sanders, a 30-year-old office worker currently employed as an editor at a major publishing house. My days are consumed by literary pursuits owing to my college major in literature. Life feels rewarding in many ways, but there's one missing piece: a girlfriend. Regrettably, my experience with dating women is practically non-existent. One day, I received a directive from the editor-in-chief to conduct a meeting with a new writer joining our editorial department. A few days earlier, our company had hosted an essay contest, and I was tasked with overseeing the winner. This talented writer, using the pen name Mary Caro, had sparked my interest. The day of the meeting arrived, and I prepared eagerly. To my astonishment, the person standing before me at the meeting booth was none other than my old crush, Kathy. Her real name, Kathy Capra, was right there on the documents provided by the editor-in-chief. She too was shocked to see me, exclaiming, "Wait, no way. I can't believe Mike works for this publisher." Despite this unexpected twist, we promptly delved into our business. I expressed my admiration for Kathy's work and proposed that she continue to write a regular column for our magazine. We also discussed collaborating on reader surveys. As I handed her the documents, I finally had a chance to gaze into Kathy's face after a decade. Her beauty hadn't diminished one bit. If anything, she was even more attractive than before. Despite being 2 years older than me, her fair, firm skin and shiny black hair still exuded youthful vitality. Her casual attire, a white blouse paired with dark brown chinos, gave her an air of sophisticated elegance. Engrossed in her explanation of her work, I couldn't help but admire her. However, when I complimented her on her writing skills, her face paled. She must have recalled a bitter memory from 10 years ago. Regretting my comment, I swiftly changed the subject, handing her my business card and expressing my availability for any questions. As the meeting concluded, Kathy thanked me and left the room with a somewhat weary expression. Exhaling deeply, I couldn't help but reflect on our history. A decade ago, we were both members of the same literature club in college. Kathy, with her beauty and charm, was the club's idol, admired by everyone. I, too, harbored a secret crush on her. Our paths had crossed back then as well, with Kathy praising my review in the college literary journal. I returned the compliment, appreciating her serial novel. Her smile in response was as radiant as the sun. In just one meeting, my past and present had converged in a surprising twist of fate. As I navigated the complex emotions stirred up by Kathy's presence, I couldn't help but wonder how this unexpected reunion might shape our future interactions, both professionally and personally. I had always been a bit of an introvert, preferring the quiet corners of life, but there was something about her cheerful and spontaneous nature that had a unique way of breaking down my defenses. Sadly, my affection for her didn't stand a chance because she already had a lover. One day, as we were leaving school, Kathy turned to me and casually said, "Tabby, let's head home together." I hesitated for a brief moment, then replied with a nonchalant, "Oh, okay, I'm coming now." However, as soon as Kathy spotted her boyfriend Joe, her face lit up with joy, and she eagerly rushed to join him. Observing them walk side by side, I couldn't help but reaffirm to myself once again that they were indeed a perfect match. Joe, a handsome guy from our literature club, and Kathy were celebrated as the most attractive couple on campus. It seemed clear that there was no room for an ordinary guy like me in their world, and I couldn't escape the harsh reality of that fact. However, fate soon took an unexpected turn. One day after school, Kathy approached me and asked, "Wanna grab a drink?" It was a day marked by heavy rain warnings, and like many other students, I had planned to head home early. Kathy, though, insisted, saying, "I really want to drink," and eventually I gave in to her persistence. Something felt off about her that evening, and I could sense it. My gut feeling turned out to be correct. As we sat down, she quickly downed her drinks at a breakneck pace. It didn't seem like she was having fun. Rather, it felt like she was drinking just to get drunk. Concerned for her, I asked, "Are you okay?" She reassured me, saying, "I'm fine," and continued to guzzle down alcohol as if it were water. As expected, when we left the bar, a severe storm was raging outside. I hailed a cab for Kathy, who was unsteady on her feet due to intoxication. She looked at me with a flushed face and asked, "How are you getting home, Mike?" With that suggestion, she leaned snugly against my arm, and in that moment my heart raced as if it were sounding a premature alarm of temptation from the woman I admired. I wrestled with my thoughts but ultimately declined her offer, saying, "Kathy, if you surrender yourself to the momentum of intoxication, you'll surely regret it. Please take care of yourself." Kathy looked down without saying a word. Just then, the taxi arrived, and I immediately started running toward my apartment. Getting soaked in the rain didn't matter at that moment. I was confused by her sudden offer, and at the same time, I deeply despised myself for even considering it. To shake off these distracting thoughts, I ran fervently through the rain, thinking, Kathy, you have such a wonderful lover. Why would you invite someone like me? Several days later, when I showed up at the club, Kathy interacted with me as if nothing had happened. Despite that, given what had transpired, I couldn't shake off the lingering awkwardness. It was like a cloud hanging over our interactions. Lost in my thoughts, the club president suddenly suggested, let's hang out at Mike's place for a change. My apartment was conveniently located next to the university and had become a hub for everyone. As expected, Kathy would be there, so I headed towards my apartment with mixed emotions. Unaware of the inner turmoil we both harbored, the other club members enjoyed themselves and had a great time. Eventually, the gathering turned into a spontaneous sleepover, and we filled the room with mattresses. Still feeling a bit tipsy, I fell into a deep sleep, only to be abruptly awakened in the early morning. As I tried to go back to sleep, I heard the sound of sobbing coming from somewhere in the room. Curious, I turned my gaze toward the source, and to my surprise, it was Kathy. Caught in a moment of vulnerability while everyone else was sound asleep, she was drenching her mattress with tears. It was a poignant sight, and I couldn't help but feel deeply moved for my senior. I found myself irresistibly drawn to her, sneakily stealing glances at Kathy through a small opening in my sleeping bag. The urge to reach out to her and discover the cause of her distress was undeniable. However, I hesitated, not wanting to disturb the peaceful slumber of others around us. As the hours passed and the first signs of morning light appeared, Kathy's tears ceased. She busied herself at the sink, applying makeup as if trying to conceal the traces of her swollen eyes. My thoughts were consumed by her, and I finally mustered the courage to emerge from my sleeping bag, synchronizing my awakening with the rest of the group. With time, I gradually pieced together the reason behind Kathy's tears. It turned out that she had recently endured a painful breakup with her boyfriend Joe. The pieces fell into place, and I couldn't help but connect the dots. Joe had been conspicuously absent during our previous gathering at my apartment. Learning about their breakup shed light on Kathy's motivations for inviting me for drinks. She must have been feeling lonely, seeking someone to lean on, a temporary distraction from her heartish. Though I longed to see Kathy again, she informed me that she was busy job hunting and began to withdraw from our club meetings. Given the emotional turmoil resulting from her breakup with Joe, attending the club meetings may have become too difficult for her. Thus, we drifted apart. Kathy graduated from college, and a decade passed without our paths crossing. Even now, Kathy remained a significant presence in my life, her memory preventing me from fully committing to any other romantic relationship. However, with our reunion, I hoped we could establish a strong professional partnership. Initially, our interactions at work were marked by an awkward tension, but as I delved into Kathy's draft, it became evident that we shared a profound passion for literature. Your new work is excellent, Kathy, I explained, my excitement palpable. With this, we can definitely aim for the top in the survey results. Kathy's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. Really? We did it. As I had predicted, Kathy's new essay claimed the top spot in the magazine's reader survey. Both of us were overjoyed by this achievement, and we decided to celebrate with a party that very night. Despite the weather forecast warning of heavy rain, Kathy insisted, I'll grab a cab home. So we made a pit stop at a nearby bar close to my apartment. The atmosphere was cozy and the food delightful. Our conversation flowed more effortlessly than I had anticipated, as if we were finally building a strong working relationship. As we enjoyed our drinks and the pleasant ambience, Kathy's expression suddenly turned serious. I've been meaning to apologize for a long time, she began. I'm truly sorry for what happened 10 years ago. It was rude of me. Instantly, I realized what Kathy was referring to, the rainy night when I had declined her offer to stay at my place. No, it's okay, don't worry about it, I reassured her. Besides, you had your own issues back then, right? You're talking about Joe. Kathy sighed and nodded. Yes, he had a habit of cheating on me. But I was so deeply in love with him that I kept forgiving him each time. When I found out he had brought another woman into our room, I couldn't bear it anymore and decided to break up with him. I was taken aback by this revelation. Joe had cheated on her? I asked, genuinely surprised by the twist in their story. I had always believed that Kathy and her boyfriend were perfectly happy together. However, as I gazed at her face, which had fallen into a gloomy expression, I realized there was more to their story. Her words hung in the air, and an unexpected revelation filled the room. But that doesn't excuse what I did to you, Mike, Kathy said with sincerity. Because you treated me kindly, I feel really safe now. Thank you, truly. Upon learning about Kathy's past and her apology, I felt a deep sense of understanding and closure. Given her painful past and the emotional burden she had carried, I couldn't help but feel deeply sympathetic towards Kathy. Blaming her was the farthest thing from my intentions. I reassured her, saying, "It's okay, Kathy. It's been 10 years. Let's let bygones be bygones. I want to create a lot of wonderful works together with you from now on." With those words, we managed to clear the misunderstandings of our past. Our renewed feelings led us to toast to a fresh start. Leaving the bar in high spirits, we attempted to hail a taxi. To our dismay, all the cab companies were fully booked, likely due to a neighborhood concert causing a surge in demand for taxis. To make matters worse, the trains were experiencing delays, leaving Kathy, who lived in the suburbs, stranded without a way to get home. Seeing Kathy distressed and hearing her wonder aloud about what she should do, I mustered the courage to make a suggestion. "Kathy, if you like, why don't you stay over at my place?" Normally, I wouldn't dare make such a bold offer, but a touch of alcohol had emboldened me. Nervously awaiting Kathy's response, I watched as she let out a sigh of relief. "Thank you, that would be wonderful." However, when we arrived at my apartment, we were faced with the reality of having only one bed. I offered the bed to Kathy, assuring her, "I'll sleep on the couch," and began heading towards the living room. To my utter surprise, Kathy suddenly hugged me from behind. I froze in place, shocked by her unexpected action. She spoke softly, saying, "Don't go, Mike. We finally came together, and I don't want to be apart from you anymore." Confused and bewildered, I stammered, "Kathy, what's going on?" Her declaration had taken me completely off guard. Then she continued, her voice filled with emotion. "There was one thing I couldn't tell you when we were drinking earlier. I've been in love with you since that rainy night." My mind went blank at Kathy's confession. I had never imagined that Kathy could have feelings for me. Before I could gather my thoughts, Kathy began to cry. At that moment, I felt a surge of anger towards Joe, the man who had hurt her so deeply. The fact that he had betrayed her numerous times filled me with an unforgiving resentment. I could never forgive him for causing Kathy so much pain. Kathy's voice trembled as she continued to speak. "I was at the end of my rope back then, betrayed by Joe, whom I loved. I didn't care about myself anymore, but you were there, telling me to take care of myself. I had always sacrificed myself for Joe, but your kindness meant the world to me. I realized I had been searching for someone like you all along." Listening to her heartfelt confession, my heart swelled with affection for her. Unable to contain my emotions, I faced Kathy and embraced her tightly. "Kathy, I like you too. I've never been able to forget you." Tears streamed down her face as she looked up at me, her eyes filled with joy. "Mike, I'm so happy." After confirming our feelings for each other, we decided to sleep together in the same bed. I couldn't help but reminisce about the time I had insisted on going home in the heavy rain, and I couldn't help but chuckle. Kathy joined in, saying, "We really haven't grown at all, have we?" With a smile, I responded, "Well, you were pretty drunk at that time. Are you sure you won't regret it? I can sleep on the couch if you want." Kathy shook her head vehemently, saying, "No, I'll never regret it. After all, I truly love you." With those words, she closed her eyes and I said nothing more, gently stroking her hair as we drifted off to sleep together, finally united in our love for one another. With a deep desire to bring happiness to Kathy, I drifted off to sleep after that special night. It marked the beginning of our official relationship. In the days that followed, Kathy continued her writing journey with remarkable smoothness. Eventually, she published a book of essays just 1 year after her debut. Kathy, a talented and beautiful female writer, began to gain popularity, and she even had the opportunity to host autograph sessions at various bookstores. As her loyal supporter, I accompanied her to these events, witnessing firsthand the growing number of fans who admired her work. One day, during an autograph session nearing its end, a familiar voice caught us both by surprise. It was Joe, Kathy's ex-boyfriend, standing right in front of us. Kathy's initial reaction was one of wariness, but then Joe did something unexpected. He bowed deeply, his head lowered in remorse. "Kathy, I truly regret how I hurt you back in college," Joe confessed. This sudden apology left both Kathy and me taken aback. You see, Joe had quite the reputation for his arrogance during his college years, known for never apologizing even when he was clearly in the wrong. This change in behavior was a shock. We listened in silence as Joe continued to speak, revealing a surprising turn of events in his life. "Kathy, I was genuinely impressed when I read your work. In fact, I've always admired writers and decided to quit my job to become a freelancer. However, unlike you, I struggled to achieve any meaningful results, and truthfully, I'm barely scraping by using my savings. As we observed Joe, it was clear that he had undergone significant changes. Once known for his fashionable attire, he was now wearing a worn-out jacket and appeared visibly tired. Kathy, despite her initial wariness, seemed to feel sympathy for him. Back in college, I was so full of myself, believing that I had the talent to become a writer. But now, I feel like life is making me pay for my past arrogance, Joe confessed. After reading your work, I couldn't just sit still. I had to come to this autograph session. I know an apology won't fix everything, but I want you to know how truly sorry I am, both as a person and as a writer. I genuinely respect you, Kathy. Joe's remorse was heartfelt and sincere. It was evident that he had grown as a person through the trials and tribulations of life. After a brief pause, Kathy finally spoke up. Joe, please lift your head. Your apology has helped me find closure. What matters is not the past but the future. I look forward to reading your work in the future, so please keep working hard. Joe expressed his gratitude, saying, "Thank you, Kathy." He then turned to me, acknowledging our shared history from college. "And Mike, you've brought out the best in Kathy. That's truly amazing. I'm glad that a wonderful man like you has become Kathy's new partner." Grateful for his kind words, I replied, Thank you for your kind words, Joe. I'm also looking forward to reading your work." Joe bought a copy of Kathy's book, got her autograph, and left the autograph session with a sense of relief. As we watched him depart, Kathy and I exchanged glances. The past might have held its challenges, but now it had transformed into a sweet